Well, despite it already being signed into law, President Trump's big, beautiful bill is still catching a lot of flack. That's because the bill will likely cut roughly $1.1 trillion in healthcare spending over the next decade. The bill will also likely result in 11.8 million people losing health insurance by 2034, with the majority of those cuts hitting Medicaid. So, how is this affecting folks right here in the DMV? Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Michael Linden, Senior Policy Fellow at the Washington Center for Equitable Growth. Michael, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I guess we should start off by saying this is somewhat concerning. Obviously, we're making reference to the folks that are at risk of losing Medicaid coverage. Let's begin in Washington, D.C., where, according to my stats, that could happen to some 114,000 residents.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what folks need to understand about this law is that it makes major changes to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Nationally, as you said, almost 12 million people will lose Medicaid. Another 5 million are likely to get priced out of the Affordable Care Act. So people here in DC and in Virginia and Maryland are likely to lose their coverage either because they no longer qualify or because they can't keep up with the new paperwork requirements, or simply because the federal government is now going to be paying a lower share of Medicaid, and states and localities may not be able to pick up the tab.
So, Michael, let's just be real. In essence, it's a done deal. It's already happened. It is signed into law. The question is, what will happen now? How does one combat this?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is the law. It was enacted over the objection of the American people who opposed this legislation by historic margins. But no law is ever totally permanent. Congress can always change it. Several of the Republican members of Congress who voted for it have even said they are unhappy with especially these changes, these cuts to Medicaid and to food assistance in the law. So with enough public pressure, I think the law could be changed. But yes, it is now the law. These are changes that are coming. People will see higher healthcare premiums as early as this fall. So the changes are coming quickly.
Michael, it's no secret. It is hot, it is hazy, and it is humid right now here in the nation's capital. I bring that up because, well, quite honestly, we also know that as a result of this bill, electricity prices could rise as well. In Maryland, some 2.1%, or excuse me, in D.C., some 2.1%. In Maryland, nearly 17%. That's enough to make you take a double look.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that this law does is it dramatically cuts investments in energy production here in the United States. So the kinds of energy production that have been added to the grid over the last few years, more energy, some solar, wind, nuclear, geothermal, things like that. Those are the kinds of renewable energies that have been added to our capacity over the last few years. And they're going to cut investments in those things, which means less energy, which means higher prices. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Maryland and in DC and in Virginia. People are just going to pay more for electricity because there is less renewable energy part of the supply.
Yeah, yet again, truly concerning, something that will obviously affect a lot of residents right here in the DMV. And then there happens to be SNAP. We know that in D.C., yet again, some 76,000 folks could be affected. In Maryland, well, some 369,000. Staggering numbers, sir.
Staggering. I mean, we are talking about the biggest rollback in food assistance to low-income, struggling families that we've ever really seen before. Almost $200 billion of cuts overall, big cuts for food assistance, which could also affect school lunch and school breakfast. And it is important to understand that part of what's going on in this bill is that they were cutting these things, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, food stamps, clean energy assistance, all to partially pay for very large tax cuts that mostly go to people at the very top of the income spectrum. So yes, people in DC are likely to start seeing changes to the SNAP program immediately. These are going to happen as quickly as next year. People will have to verify their eligibility more often, and the eligibility requirements have been tightened. And then for the first time ever, states and localities are going to have to pick up a portion of the tab. And again, some of these states are not going to be able to do that. They're going to have to raise taxes or cut people off of the program.
Yeah, Michael, you heard me make mention of this earlier, and that is some 11.8 million people will lose health insurance by the year 2034. that seems so far away for so many folks, but yet again, that's something that should be top of mind for a number of residents right here in the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area.
That's right. The coverage effect will start taking these coverage losses will start coming sooner than that. That's sort of by the end of 10 years, how big will the coverage losses get? But like I said, there's going to be higher premiums for people as soon as this fall. Some people will get priced out of coverage as quickly as next year. And then some of these changes to Medicaid could start happening late next year as well. So we are talking about people losing their insurance and facing higher prices in the healthcare system pretty much right away.
Yeah. Michael, as we wrap up, anything we should be made aware of? Anything else?
The last thing, just to remind people or to raise up here, is that these cuts will also affect things like hospitals
Mm.
and nursing homes. Many rural hospitals rely on Medicaid for to make their ends meet, frankly, to stay in operation. And many rural hospitals have said they will not be able to continue operating. And the same is true for nursing homes. Medicaid pays for about half of all nursing home care in this country. So we are likely to see pretty significant changes to the healthcare system for everybody. And I think that is a major concern.
Yet again, vital information we wanted to make sure we passed along to our viewers. We have been joined by Mr. Michael Linden, Senior Policy Fellow, Washington Center for Equitable Growth. Michael, truly appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well,